Abraham Lincoln. He's saying that anything that hurts working people is treason to America. I mean, that is an incredibly powerful way to frame this.
All right, so let's rewind all the way to the very beginning, because right from the start, the United States was born with this massive contradiction. It was a nation that shouted about freedom from the rooftops, but its entire economy was built on the backs of both free and enslaved people. And you can't understand the history of American work without first understanding that paradox.
For nearly 4 million enslaved African Americans, there was no liberty. And even for so-called free workers, like skilled artisans, their independence was vanishing. The old system was being replaced by factories, and suddenly you had this new, cold language of boss and employee.
It created unimaginable wealth, but it also led to some of the most violent, brutal labor conflicts in American history.
And the Gilded Age, wow. It was basically open warfare between workers and owners.
146. That's how many people died in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in 1911. They were mostly young immigrant women, and they were trapped inside because the factory doors had been locked from the outside. This horrific, preventable tragedy absolutely shocked the nation's conscience. The sheer scale of suffering forced a political revolution, and the New Deal created what people call labor's Magna Carta. For the first time in American history, the federal government wasn't automatically siding with the bosses. It was now explicitly protecting a worker's right to unionize, it was setting a minimum wage and the 40-hour work week, and it was creating a social safety net for everyone.
At its peak, back in the 1950s, union power was immense. Over a third of the private sector workforce was in a union. And that collective power literally built the largest middle class the world had ever seen. Today, it's barely 10%. 11,359. That is the exact number of striking air traffic controllers that President Ronald Reagan fired in 1981. This one single act sent an absolutely chilling message to every employer in the country.
You had deindustrialization just hollowing out the Rust Belt. You had deregulation in industries like trucking that led to a race to the bottom on wages. And then you had new trade deals like NAFTA that made it super easy for companies to just pack up and move jobs overseas.
When you're classified as a contractor instead of an employee, all those hard-won protections we've been talking about, they just vanish. No minimum wage, no overtime, no unemployment insurance, and, maybe most importantly, no federally protected right to form a union.
Baristas at a single Starbucks in Buffalo, New York, voted to form a union, the very first at a company-owned store. And that one little victory, it's since sparked a movement at hundreds of stores all across the country.
In 2022, workers at a massive Amazon warehouse on Staten Island, led by a fired employee, mind you, took on one of the most powerful companies on Earth, and they won. They formed the first ever Amazon union in the US,